Okay folks, I want to tell you something about sequels. They can either make or break a franchise, and sometimes they can just be shameless cash grabs. So that's Hollywood in general? What he said.
The problem with sequels is that expectations will be high knowing what the predecessors set. You need only look at Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Iron Man and the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie to know that you either match or succeed what the audience was greeted with previously.
And let's be fair, most of the time, it doesn't happen.
Just look at every Terminator movie past T2, the rinse and repeat formula of the Avengers sequels, and the current Spider-Man series with Tom Holland.
And we come to 2004's Spider-Man 2, following on from the original movie.
Considering what the original had laid the groundwork for, it had a lot to live up to. Does it still hold up?
Only one way to find out. Let's swing back into 2004. Spider-Man 2 has a very similar premise to The Dark Knight. It shows the progression and evolution of the story.
With the first outing, we saw Peter acquire his powers and having what I like to call the honeymoon period, where he's being a benefit to the city.
But like with any honeymoon, afterwards there comes a marriage. The commitment.
We see him struggle in this movie to such a degree that it's affecting his academic, personal and vigilante life. He's burning the candle at both ends, trying to maintain a job as a pizza delivery boy, his freelance photography with the Daily Bugle, and his grades are slipping at university. And on top of that, more worries are added knowing that Harry wants Spider-Man dead, still believing that he killed his father, and discovering Aunt May has financial woes.
And his situation is not being helped to any end, with his strained relationship with Mary Jane affecting his powers.
I didn't latch on to this until many years later, as I first believed in 2004 that the movie was setting up the Man-Spider story arc where Parker would mutate into a humanoid 8-limbed monster. Those that recall this in the 90s animated series will remember that Peter's powers would keep turning on and off, resulting in what Doc Connors referred to as a mutation disease as he was still changing.
The themes of loss, redemption, and perseverance are present.
In Doc Ock's case, it was losing his life's work, sanity, and his wife Rosie due to the experiment going wrong in trying to harness the power of the sun and losing control of the AI mechanical arms grafted to his body.
Peter carries the theme of responsibility when he becomes Spider-Man again, when he sees Doc Ock carrying Mary Jane away.
Everyone has a self-destruct button in terms of when lines are crossed. With the Hulk, there's too many to list. With Parker, it is loved ones being threatened.
You know, I think Undertaker said it best in his American Badass persona, "Mess with my family and I will hurt you." And now I'm picturing Spider-Man coming out on a motorcycle to "You're Gonna Pay."
I say perseverance as well because it's this scene from Aunt May that later inspires a rescue.
Just to get a glimpse of the one who taught him to hold on a second longer.
And then I also liked how the New Yorkers stood up for Spidey when they got in between him and Doc Ock.
He's mine!
You want to get to him, you got to go through me.
And me.
Me too.
When people see someone risk their neck for people they don't even know, they show gratitude and loyalty. This was also seen in the final battle of the first movie.
Come on up here, dumb guy. I got a little something for you.
You're freaking
Leave Spider-Man alone. You got to pick on a guy trying to save a bunch of kids? You mess with Spidey, you mess with New York. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
You damn right.
Towards the end of the movie, I liked the reverse of Peter and Otto from the perspective of telling each other the importance of intelligence and that it's a privilege and not a gift. I like this to whenever Marty would go back to 1955 where he's essentially the teacher to Doc Brown as opposed to 1985 Doc where he's the mentor.
Although, the idea of Marty McFly swinging around New York as Spider-Man in an alternate reality is intriguing.
In the same scene where Mary Jane was held captive and she turns around and sees Peter unmasked, she is not only surprised but connected all the dots and understood why he'd kept his distance from her. It's like I said last time, there's a reason why you have to be a lone crusader. You keep your loved ones from harm and thus not compromising yourself as a result. It's not something you want to do, but you have to. Responsibility. However, this all becomes null and void because Mary Jane ditches John at the altar and chooses Peter.
So much for keeping your distance.
In short, this remains one of the best superhero sequels ever to be made. The writing is solid and it builds upon the foundations set by the original, and it's no wonder fans keep coming back to this.
Maguire reprises his role as the webhead, and personally, I think this is his best performance.
He really shows the struggle of the weight he carries on his shoulders, as a student, a photographer, a pizza delivery guy, and his alter ego.
What can I say? You can only burn the candle at both ends for so long.
I think that's true of most people in life. You can only keep pushing yourself at maximum for so long before it shows in your work and personal life, and then you burn out. One scene I felt mirrored a rescue from the first movie, except with a twist. Peter is rescuing a child without his powers this time.
It's okay, your baby's fine.
Oh my baby. God bless you, Spider-Man. Bless you.
And then the rescue in question from this movie.
I feel like this shows the heart of Spidey. Powers or not, he will die trying before he sees an innocent child die in a fire.
JK returns as the show-stealing, gruff comic relief. He expands on his performance from the first movie, showcasing more of his natural charisma and some great lines that just make him a treat to watch.
Here are some of his best quotes.
Miss Brandt,
Yes.
get me a violin.
Boss, your wife's on the line. She said she lost a checkbook.
Thanks for the good news.
And the one that everyone has used as a meme.
You serious?
Oh, you lovable scamp. Riddle me this. Was this JJ or JK enjoying this? You be the judge.
Alfred's portrayal as Doc Ock is arguably one of the best supervillain performances, as he makes the audience feel sympathy for what he's been through, and yet show him disdain for how he goes about recreating his failed experiment. It's one of the best redemption stories at the end, where his own free will overrides the AI and sets about dismantling his experiment with what I feel is a great line. I will not die a monster.
And he didn't. He died a man redeemed.
Rosemary's second performance as Peter's auntie is one that has an impact later on in the movie when Parker's powers have been subdued due to his conflicting issues with Mary Jane. I did feel like the way the story resolved itself concerning who was responsible for the situation of Ben's death was really contrived.
Let me ask you something. If you found out that someone could have prevented a criminal from taking the life of your loved one, wouldn't you be
Language.
I was wondering when you would show up.
Despite that criticism, Harris puts in a great emotional performance as Aunt May that allowed the character to grow. Unlike his last appearance as the character, Franco actually showed emotional range from when Octavius' experiment went wrong, and to the look of shock on his face when he discovers that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are one and the same.
What is this? James Franco actually showing range? Interesting. Next you'll be telling me Kirsten Dunst actually improved.
The subplot of his disdain and revenge-driven rage is what allows the character to evolve, and it provides Franco with useful material to work with. The first movie actually showed a somewhat competent performance to where the material complemented her skills at that time.
In this, however,
Kirsten is flatter than a wooden post with about as much acting conviction as Kristen Stewart trying to show charisma.
just ask Robert Pattinson.
It's been established over time that actors and actresses go through bad spells in their careers, and this was obviously one of them. And as mentioned last time, Spider-Man 3 was her worst performance.
Oh boy, I am not looking forward to that review.
Okay, before anyone starts overreacting, there were some improvements made, but it's the visual effects that left a lot to be desired.
Exhibit A. Exhibit B. Look, I appreciate that they're a product of their time, but this looked nasty in 2004, let alone today.
The green screen is hit and miss. The coffee shop scene where the car is propelled through the window and crashes behind Peter and Mary Jane looks so painfully obvious, like a green screen that was not properly lit. Whereas the train scene, it looks more plausible.
Humor me a minute. Do you ever get the impression that while chroma key work has improved in the last 2 decades with things like The Avengers, Age of Ultron and Endgame, do you ever get the feeling like the writing has gone in reverse? Changed my mind.
I think the only visual effects that actually look good then and still do is the CG for Ock's tentacles and to his death scene where he sinks to the bottom of the river where the CGI is reasonably photoreal. So, there are some improvements made to the effects, but it's something that could be refined if an anniversary edition is put out where they improve upon them. Danny Elfman provides the amazing score that he had so masterfully used in the first and uses new pieces that elevate scenes to really sell the emotion of the characters. Scenes from May telling Spidey to hold on a second longer, the revelation for Harry that Peter is Spider-Man, and the discovery from Mary Jane that Peter is Spidey and realizes why he had kept her at arm's length for so long. And the same can be said with the sad and somber piece used for Otto's death.
I thought it was a clever idea to use Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head as we see this montage of Peter being a little bit more carefree and relaxed, where he's catching up with his studies, where he has a more easygoing demeanor.
So, 2 for 2, the score did its job. Spider-Man 2 grossed a profit of $789 million against a budget of $200 million. Today, the profit would be worth $1.1 billion. Mark Caro of the Chicago Tribune wrote this about Alfred Molina. A pleasingly complex villain, and the film as a whole improves upon its predecessor in almost every way. Roger Ebert commented, "The best superhero movie since the modern genre was launched with Superman," and praising the film for effortlessly combining special effects and a human story, keeping its parallel plots alive and moving. Spider-Man 2 the video game was released onto multiple consoles from PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, and the original Xbox. It had an open map world that was based on Manhattan, Roosevelt Island, Ellis Island, and Liberty Island. You could lose yourself for hours just swinging around or stopping random crimes and having fun, tying crooks up in webs and hanging from street lamps.
And of course, pizza time!
Because we see at the start of the movie Peter is doing whatever he can to make money. This aspect was included in the game to where you see him swinging around dropping off pizza to, I guess, inspired music for pizza. This of course would spark memes later where you'd see Toby's face on a clock made of pizza. It remains one of the most beloved superhero movies and sequels to this day.
The movie has been enjoyed on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K since 2004. I'm MJ Knight, and we had pizza time with Spider-Man 2.